been able to go and see in the ancestry with the help of Chrystal B. Gaskins. I spent time looking at our tree, all the way back to 1120, y'all. 1120. So, peaceful rising. It is 7:15-ish on Saturday, June the 29th. June is almost over with. I had to tell you, I woke up this morning and I woke up to an image of a picture and a poem that I wrote back in 2011. And once I saw the date on there, it was even more significant. Peace and blessings. This is Reverend Empress Chakra Wanda. You can call me Chakra. You can call me Mama. You can call me Wanda. Whatever feels good to you. Oh my gosh. So this image was a confirmation. The poem is called Wade into the Depths of Who I Am. And the picture is self-explanatory. Sunset and wading into the water. But it's the words, and here is the picture, and I'm going to recite the poem. Wade into the depths of who I am. In my life, I have stood at the shores of my soul as I watch the waves of life move toward me. I've taken small steps forward, trusting that the ground beneath would support me, support all my fears, doubts, and insecurities. As I attempted to move forward, I recognized the gentle nudging of the water, the living energy of life surrounding me, prompting me to come further in. But once I no longer felt the sandy ground beneath me, I would fall back with uncertainty. Even still, my desire to expand beyond the shore keeps calling me to go deeper. As I step forward, I come to realize that I am supported by the waves of life, especially when I take deep breaths and affirm that I am supported by the energy of faith and that the uncertainty is actually a motivating force designed to catapult me into my opulent life. I then realized that I must go deeper. I must wade into the depths of who I am. Wanda Gaskins, copyright 2011. Right. It's significant to me because right at this very moment, I am marinating in a revelation, a very powerful truth that has come forward for me to bask in. It has to do with the very blood that pulses through my veins. It has to do with 65 years being on the planet in the physical. I consider my spirit ageless because guess what it is? As I say in this moment, my spirit is ageless. My spirit consists of the essence and the beauty of the gifts of those that have gone before me, and now me, right, along with many others of particular lineage, are here to express and be fully expressed. Many do not get the opportunity to understand where they come from. We are approaching July the 4th, a date stamped in time that's supposed to represent freedom of my culture, right? But we realized that the full freedom did not come until Juneteenth, for those that are in Texas, to represent the full freedom. But I just became aware of some information that goes before July 4th, before emancipation proclamation, and it's not something that I look for, but I was called to find out about. And so the poem and the picture that I woke up to, remembering that those words were created at that particular time in 2011, I'm going to bring it together. Bottom line is, I came back from a wonderful trip to be with my family on Father's Day weekend, which was also Juneteenth weekend. And so did what I needed to do there. Family is healing, you know, visiting there. My father, when I saw him, I entered into my brother's house, and there were pictures of ancestors, my grandmother and grandfather on my father's side. And then I saw another picture. I remember seeing my grandma and granddaddy when I was a little girl, always at their house. And I don't think I ever had a picture of them on my person all these years. And then I saw another picture of this distinguished man, and I may insert that here. And then my father walked up to me and said, that's my grandfather. So that's my great-grandfather, right? He said, that's my grandfather. I said, oh, that's my great-grandfather. And so my father had, he tells a story of what he discovered many years ago. And that date is significant because it's the same date that was on the image that I was reminded to go look for, right? The poem that I wrote. And so my father discovered that his great-grandfather, in those days, in his time, sued the government for, I guess, property stolen. I guess soldiers came to the town and then they took his property. And my great-grandfather, let's see, wait a minute. My great-great-grandfather was bold enough, the blood that was in him, probably all the way from his ancestors, said, oh, we ain't having that. He sued them and won the case. And so I remembered that. And then last year, a cousin in a conversation, the area that my father's family is from is Falls Church. And he said, I just happened to be jogging and I came across an area, a little park, and there's a historical marker there. And it shows that these are the first families of Falls Church. And there was 14 families listed, and then it said others. And our name was in the main group in history, marked. And on the ground was, our name was etched. So anyway, after leaving my dad, I came back home. I had an ancestry account. You know, I must have been inspired by my dad, but no, I remember taking a trip to South Carolina on a vacation a few years ago. And a sister friend that is into movement like I am suggested, because, I do co-facilitate spiritual retreats or get called to also be speaking at those. And she said, come down here if you ever want to do a retreat. And she was in Edisto Island. And I went on my vacation. I stopped by there because I like to go to Hilton Inn in the Gullah Islands. And this incredible story of how in a dream she was led back to that island. And there's a book written about that Edisto Island. And her cousin interviewed her elders. And there's history that's within their being that is not written, but finally gets to be written. And then she said that the African American Museum in Washington, D.C. the Smithsonian, has a house, a slave cabin, they picked that location out of all locations in the country. It had the most intact slave cabin, which was her ancestors. Now it is in the Smithsonian. That was in 2020, and I was activated to go into ancestry. And so, long and short, fast forward, coming back this year after Father's Day, after talking with my father, after reflecting on what he said he found in ancestry, after reflecting on what my cousin said about an historical marker, these things kept coming up. So I came home, opened my account again, and then I remembered when my dad did his ancestry, he came across a cousin, Chrystal B. Gaskins. Turns out she's a genealogist. So I remembered that and called her. And 2011, she showed me a screenshot of, I think my dad must have done a DNA match, and it showed up in the system, and her screen says, you're related to Leroy Gaskins, 5th generation. So therefore her and I are 6th generation. So I called her, and she was nice enough to call me back, and we ended up a 4-hour conversation, y'all. Then things just started accelerating. She shared with me important historic documentation. There was a dissertation done in 1993 by a history professor, I guess. He was going for his PhD, a history scholar, going for his PhD. And he decided to do research project on slavery in Virginia from the beginning until, I guess, Emancipation Proclamation. He chose a particular plantation in Westmoreland, Virginia, Nomini plantation. And she shared with me this document. It's 733 pages. And it's based on the daily logs and journals of the slave masters, letters from in there of journals and diaries of the slaves, and historical public records. Amazing. So they gave me access, and it turns out my ancestors are in this document. So on Ancestry, I was able to also find them. Oh my goodness. It turns out there's a historical society that keeps the history up with regard to that particular plantation, and specifically why is this? This has to do with what history reflects officially and recognizes. So, July 4th is all about it's all about the Emancipation Proclamation. But 62 years before that, there was another act or a law put in place for the opportunity of freedom. And the 62 years before Lincoln proclamation, there was a law that said that slave owners are allowed to release their slaves. And so this plantation owner of Nomini Plantation, Robert Carter III, moved forward with activating that for his plantation. There's a whole lot around that, but it is being recognized. It started to be recognized as a ceremony last year in September with the Nomini Hall. They call the plantation Nomini Hall Society. So my cousin, Chrystal B. Gaskins, made me aware of that document and so much more. Also gave me access to view her ancestry account to show how far she's gone up. Oh my goodness. I got off the phone with her and my mind kept going, and I heard in my spirit, I heard these questions. Where did the slaves come from? How did they get here to the plantation? And then I also had a question about my last name. What was the origin? Because we know in history that slave owners changed the African names, we erased us, period, as a culture, as a community. And I ended up on the Hampton, Virginia Historical Museum website. And there's a close to 35-page document that documents the first arrival of Africans, where they came from. Then I was able to go back to the dissertation about the Nomini plantation, and it shows in there where the first generation of Robert Carter met the boats that came up to Chesapeake Bay from Hampton, Virginia. It's so much more that I am going to be sharing as my personal journey, wading into the depths of who I am. Wading into the depths of who I am. Sharing this first with my family. This will be released as a series in the most appropriate time. So I'm capturing it. I'm capturing how I'm being guided as the information comes. And as I've been reading this documentation, it feels like I'm really catapulted back in time, especially when I hear from the diaries of the slaves on the plantation. There will be times in your life where your inner callings that have been encoded within your cells, in your DNAs, from your ancestors, all the way from the beginning of your blood, walking as the divine on the planet. I've been able to go and see in the ancestry with the help of Chrystal B. Gaskins. I spent time looking at our tree, all the way back to 1120, y'all. 1120. So, but from 1619 is when the first Africans were brought to Virginia on the shores of Hampton, Virginia, which was called something else back in those days. So I can see as far back as that. And then when the blood was mixed, when the plantation owner touched one of us, her name, Mary Harrison. And then I could see where the son that she birthed, all right, at the time when the law came about, the slave owner, the third generation, Robert Carter III, so Mary's son is his stepbrother, and that stepbrother married Hannah Gaskins. So I could see that. And then, but I could see beyond 1619, all the way back to 1120. Wrap your head around that. That is something else. I give thanks for this beautiful soul that is in my lineage, Chrystal B. Gaskins, hearing the spirit to be a natural genealogist, already birthed that way. And so, and responding to my call, where I feel like there is a call, right? There's certain times in our lives where you're going to be called and compelled to work in a particular garden of your life. Maybe it's your skills and your talents and, coming out of you, and you don't know where it originated. This has been very impactfully powerful for me, and it answers a lot of questions about who I am and how I express in this moment, because I can go all the way back to my ancestors that were brought here from and landed on the shores of Virginia. I can go all the way back and see the country, the kingdom where we were brought, the story of the journey from the shores of this kingdom. I want to give the details, slowly but gently, like a beautiful banquet, a beautiful meal that there's pain in that meal. When you, there's pain in digesting the truth. So as I breathe through it and share with you, I pray that it encourages at least somebody to go back, right, to the origin of your blood. Most recently, there's a picture that is going viral. It's a historic moment, or of a person of a historic nature. Harriet Tubman. It's a viral picture. I'm going to insert that here. That is on the side of a building in Maryland. And when I saw the picture, right in this time, what I heard was, come, dear one. Come walk where we have been. And the word SANKOFA comes to mind because it's about going back. Y'all gotta get it. I know one or two of y'all do. Oh, on so many levels, there's healing in this. This is not a history project for me. It is so much more, to the degree that I will be meeting not only with my cousin for more clarity, for sitting at her feet to learn more, but also I'll be taking a class with the Smithsonian on the July 29th at 11 a.m. They have a free program where you can research your African American history. Now, I know a lot of people do get their DNA with African ancestry. More power. All right, I intend to do that actually after I do this reading and researching, and then I can do that to see how it matches. I mean, maybe I'm on a wild goose chase. I don't know, but from these documents, the dissertation and the information at the Hampton Museum, we gonna see. I'll do the ancestry. I'll do the African ancestry after that, but I do intend to do the DNA portion with ancestry as well. But I'm going in the traditional route of the account and listening and studying from what I learned from my 6th generation cousin. Oh my God, y'all. It is incredible. But let me get back. I said I saw a picture of Harriet Tubman. And I said, when I saw it, the energy felt like, come, because she's reaching out. Come, dear one. Come walk where we have been. And I mentioned that to my cousin. And she said, okay, are you ready? I said, oh, ready for what? She said, Google Harriet Tubman and the name Gaskins. And it came up. I'll share that alone. I'll tell you what came up. I'm going to stop right here. Peace and blessings to you. Because at this present moment, Just like you have to make room in your phone when information overload or data and information that is old that needs to be filed away. I recently had to do that. I had to make room in my phone, get a hard drive, and make room and space because the journey I'm on now, the trajectory of being in this, learning more and wading back into the depths of who I am is a new purpose outside of what I do in my healing work. I've been practicing another instrument with Native American flute. I'm still co-facilitator as an elder for a sister circle. I'm excited to share with them. Man, a lot of things can be made in clarity of whatever you're navigating and unfolding in when you understand where you come from. When I began to read about the kingdom that my ancestors may have come from, now it makes so much more sense of who I am as a multi-creative being. From the music, from the desire strong of being in nature and the elements, that is a part of my blood. It is not something that I was learned. It was a part of my blood. I'm going to stop right here. I'm going to stop right here. So whenever this is meant to launch and to be shared, then so it shall be. Wading into the depths of who I am. My journey